Hello y'all, my name is Max. I'm not necessarily new to fandom at all, but I am new to creating content and posting it onto YouTube. I've posted before, but it's mainly just, stuff I find in my phone and then I just upload it. But I want to use this channel as a way to kind of discuss fandom, but in a sense of kind of disavowing conflict at all. I think, you're ruining your own experience by constantly arguing with other people. The person who I want to talk about today is named Hero Hey. He's a YouTuber with, 500,000 subscribers. And I want to talk about his video called Just Got Roasted for this Ito Genshin edit. He posted that 2 days ago as of recording this video. From first impressions, I already was kind of iffy about going into it. Mainly because of the the thumbnail, because there's like the regular Ito that was posted onto the Genshin Impact Twitter, and then there is a blackwashed, in quotes, version of him. So first impression, not really all that great, because I'm a person who doesn't really care about quote-unquote blackwashing. I just don't really care at all, because I feel like people should do whatever they want, and it's not indicative of much, A lot of people feel like, oh yeah, but they're Asian, quote-unquote. And, first of all, I feel like they're not real. Yeah, they might be Asian, they might not be, but first and foremost, they're not real. So when somebody blackwashes a character, you have to realize it's completely different than blackwashing a human being. Because, usually blackwashing a human being is what we call blackface. So they're not equal at all. So it's just kind of dumb to equate those two things.
I don't play Genshin, but have this as a treat. Hashtag Ito, hashtag Genshin Impact. We view the tweet, and oh, take a look at this. How very original, totally an original character here this person put time and effort into making, except no, it's not. This is Ito from Genshin Impact. And the thing is, people in the responses aren't really enjoying this. For example, we have Moon here saying, "You changed his race." And this person, Corey, seemingly defending it.
The first thing that I really want to say is that a lot of people who do this blackwashing quote-unquote thing are doing it from a good place. It's a bad assumption to make that every person who's ever doing it is doing it out of a place to be racist. It just depends on who is making the content. If it's a black person who's, darkening the skin of a fictional character who, is not real, then it's completely different than a white person doing it. Because the white person who's doing it is mainly doing it out of a savior complex, who is trying to get on the good graces of black people when they don't actually have to do that, and black people can do that themselves. You're just kind of insinuating a whole lot, right? You're just painting somebody as a bad guy automatically without hearing their other perspective. And coming from and seeing that person's tweet, it just seems like they were just somebody who really wanted to do something nice for other people. But a whole lot of people just kind of assume that they're being a bad person, when no, that's kind of a huge assumption to make. So I just think, if you're going to get really mad about something like that, you could just step back, realize who is the person making that content, and realize, it's just doesn't matter at the end of the day. It's just a fictional character. And a lot of people have very valid justifications for being upset because they feel like Ito represents, a character from Japan. And that makes sense. He does. But you have to realize, black Japanese people exist. And although you may feel like they don't exist in huge numbers as somebody who is from, America, right? There are a lot of black Japanese people. A large portion of the Japanese people who are black actually come from Africa themselves, right? So it's not a bad thing in order to portray a character who represents Japanese culture to be black, because there is indeed black Japanese culture. You just haven't seen it because there's no representation of it. So kind of, they're doing something, right? Portraying a character who's black in Japan makes sense because there are black Japanese people. And I know that's what the person in the original tweet defending the artist was saying. To assume somebody is being inherently bad just because they blackwash a character is false equivalence. You're automatically just kind of assuming that somebody's being, aggressive, who was being bad, and who was just being a supervillain of some sort just because they color over a picture.
On that note, someone says, a good place to put this down, and post this picture of Xinyan, and the first response is this person saying, what the redacted? And posting a gif of someone like drinking bleach and setting fire, I guess, what's the message on that, the memo? You want this person to X themselves off from life over that?
When it comes to this argument, I feel like a lot of people who, are against quote-unquote blackwashing don't really know what racism is, because there's actual history of people whitewashing, black characters who want to take away the blackness of, black people. There is just a much bigger difference. There's not some sort of recorded history where black people make white people black in order to reign supreme over white people. There's not. The reverse is true. There's really no stories of white people throwing acid onto black people in order to whiten their skin, and promoting certain types of soap in order to wash away the dirt that is being black, right? So that in itself is equivalence that you can make. If you whitewash a character who has a slightly darker skin tone, there is more implications simply because of the recorded history that exists. I work in history. I handle, history. I have an internship where, I'm handling African American archives, right? There is, in fact, a recorded history where people do those things. It's not the same when it comes to Arataki Ito having a darker skin color. That doesn't exist. That's never has existed before. And when you weaponize, like, oh, let me do the exact reverse to black people who, have had family who were victims to this sort of oppression, who are currently victims of this sort of oppression, it just seems super inconsiderate and racist. It just seems racist. Maybe you're not racist yourself, but you certainly did something that is in fact racist, because you cannot handle somebody darkening the skin color of a character that does not exist, while you do something that is, when it comes to people like this, if they're unable to accept the fact that people have been victimized by white people who have, had acid thrown in their faces in order to become white, right? If you refuse to recognize that as something that has happened before, you're never going to get it. Because, guess what? Two things are not necessarily the exact same, right? There's a different context. Some things have different context. Some things have a more historical basis as for why people consider it to be negative than something that is relatively new and has no sense of negativity to it. When it comes, there is just such a different reason why people do two different things, right? If somebody whitewashes a character, there's a malice behind it. They don't do it in order to make it themselves representative, right? They don't do it to make some sort of representation with a game and, a media that often includes white people instead of, including black people, right? There is a sense of malice behind that, and if you continuously lie to everybody else and lie to yourself that there is no sense of malice, you're just detaching yourself from the truth. Because everybody around you knows exactly why you're doing it. You're doing it to be malicious, and you're not, being smart or funny by doing so. You're, kind of making other people uncomfortable. Surprise. You're not being funny or cute, you're just being racist. That's not fun at all. Surprise, I guess. In fucking essence, everybody needs to realize the differences of intent. Intent is something that is very important to consider. When it comes to, quote unquote blackwashing a character, it's not done as a sense of, Japanese people, I don't like them, they're bad. It's done in a sense to be like, oh, I want to look like this character. I want this character to look like I do, because I think that would be nice. I want to do that to make me happy. When whitewashing a character, exactly like the motherfucker did with Dinyan, right? They, lightened her skin in response of a person doing the quote-unquote exact opposite, which is not true at all. It's done in a sense of maliciousness. Which is, kind of like very obvious. I think that's a very obvious thing. I hope that's not too hard to understand. I hope. But if it is, I'm sorry, I guess. It's not my fault if you can't understand it. I just think, intent is a very important thing to consider. But, of course, when you constantly erase context of videos and what people say in order to make, yourself seem like more of a person whose argument is right, you kind of, you'll have some dire consequences. Well, that'll be it for my first video, like, ever. I have tried to do actual YouTube before, mainly when I was like 11 years old, and I would download this jailbreak version of screen recording before screen recording was a thing. So yeah, I've always wanted to do YouTube, but I never knew exactly how. But I think I'm at that age where I'm somewhat entertaining. I would think, but I do hope you enjoyed, mainly because I do want to mainly talk about this subject, because I feel like a lot of people at this point are arguing far too much on the internet, and it's kind of getting annoying, because I just want to be here. It's like, yo, you can just sit down, you can calm down, we can just have fun. It's not necessarily the exact same as real life, so let's just hang out and not argue with all the time. But yeah, I do hope you enjoy this video, and please, I hate to be shameless like this, but if you could like and subscribe, it's so cringe to say, but if you could like and subscribe so I can make actual videos, not on a fucking iPad, that'd be great. Thank you so much.